Good morning. This is Bill from Auto Europa Naples, and as promised, I thought I would give you a little tour today of the Spec Miata. I'm always talking about laps at Sebring and, taking the Miata around the track. And, like any good European car dealership, I zeroed right in on Miatas when the time came to get a race car. Because when you're looking for a race car, frankly, when you're impoverished like I am, the answer is always Miata. It's absolutely the cheapest and best way to get into racing, and also the most competitive way to get into racing, because in our little SCCA group, the Spec Miata is far and away the most competitive class. And, we're thought of as a bunch of scofflaws and, horrible people, and frankly, it's true. Anyway, so this thing, it began life as a 2003, standard VVT Miata, white with tan leather. It was a really nice car. If you remember, I used to do videos for a place called Auto House of Naples. Still very fond of Peter, the owner of Auto House. We get along very well. And I was working there when this car came in on trade. In fact, on some kind of M Series, Z car. And I was just starting to get into autocross and PDX, they call it, which are like little track days, and it just seemed like this was the perfect vehicle to do it in, and that has held true. This thing has been an incredible machine for me over the course of the last few years, and has undergone some pretty radical changes. I mean, at first it was just, an autocross and track car. It had big wheels and tires and a roll bar, not a roll cage. And, I drove it around on lowered, big, it was a lot of fun. But, some friends of mine, they got into the racing, we all sort of migrated that way, and then it just became that. Our colors here at Auto Europa are blue, silver, that sort of thing. So, of course, I went with Kawasaki green when I did this car. Now, this thing hanging down, it's the hood release. Before this last weekend at Sebring, that was the most beautiful hood release you had ever seen. I mean, it was covered with black plastic, sheathed, it was a loop, and I had a spin out. This is a really long story, but I'm going to tell it to you because, I'm going to make you suffer through it like I did. We're welding the exhaust on it, and I've got this little friend who I won't name. His name is Franklin, and Franklin is, I don't know if I can say it I mean, he's an a-hole. I'm gonna be, but he's a nice a-hole, but he's an a-hole. And as he's welding on the exhaust, he's just one of these persnickety little bastards who always has to, pretend he does things the right way. So we had to disconnect the negative battery terminal. And, Franklin, for Christ's sake, what's going to happen is I'm going to forget it. It's going to be disconnected. It's going to come off on the track, and it's going to cause me tears. No, we'll get it. We'll get it. Well, of course we didn't get it. And so I'm out there at the practice day for Turkey Trot about a week ago. I'm doing laps. I have new suspension bushings. I have a new, suspension setup, so not totally familiar with it. I managed to spin the car horribly in, I don't remember, it was turn 10. Anyway, and the damn thing completely dead. The battery cable pops off, no restart. I'm just sitting there cursing Franklin's name, hating him with a visceral, really, truly visceral, deep hatred. And anyway, the roadside assistance people come up. This frankly very large, offensive woman gets out of the truck, and they explained to me that they can't just put the battery cable back on. They got to tow me in because there's some policy about not working on a car on a track. I know this is tedious, but anyway, so they have to connect it to the truck and tow me in. Well, I've got two giant D-rings up front that I have welded in, including a tow sticker over here on the right-hand side, and she connects the tow rope to my beautiful hood pull. I mean, you just can't make this crap up. So the truck pulls off, and click, up comes my hood, and the tow snap thing just snaps, and anyway, so now I have to remake the hood pull. But Spec Miata is kind of a fascinating class. I'll show you under the hood, although there's really not that much to see. Reason being, the car has to be fairly factory. There's no real messing with it. You can do little stupid things, but essentially what we're doing is racing prepared street cars, and that's what this is. So it's a factory head, it's a factory block, you know, little tweaks here and there. There's a few guys out there like East Street who do tweaks to get them better. We've got a big cross-flow radiator here to keep it cool. This is an oil filter, oil sending unit relocation kit. The factory location for the sending unit is kind of wonky, so you have to update that if you want to get a better reading on your oil pressure. This thing here is called a restrictor plate. You might remember that if you're a NASCAR fan. It's a way to slow cars down. What it does is, you know, it puts a smaller diameter intake into where, you know, the air goes, so it can't suck in as much air. It slows the engine down. And the reason for that is they vary the different years of Miatas. Like the early Miatas, the 1990s, 1s, 2s, 3s, they don't need restrictor plates at all. The 99s use the biggest restrictor plate for some reason, and then these VVT cars use a slightly smaller one. But the idea behind that is to keep everybody on the same level, everybody equal, and try to keep it a really competitive class. But this was a Daytona fix here, this stupid heater hose bypass. I was getting a leak. You know, I'm supposed to have my heater hooked up, frankly be much better, but I fixed it at the track and it wasn't leaking anymore, so I'm just loath to change it again. But anyway, there's very few cars in the world that can live at 7,000 RPM on the track all day, hour after hour after hour, and just keep coming back for more. So you really got to hand it to these little guys. And if you look down there, you see that big roll bar. That is the one thing you can have on these Miatas is suspension. And this one does. It's got coilovers all the way around, big sway bars in the front, a littler one in the back, a big sway bar in the front. And anyway, that really does keep the car glued to the track. In fact, on a short track, one without really big long straightaways, this thing can really outperform almost any Corvette. It drives those guys absolutely batshit. Okay, so inside, and I'm going to actually get in this thing just to show you, and it is a misery for me every time I do. But you can see the car has basically been gutted. You know, we've got a racing seat in here. This is by Kirky. This is a very special seat Kirky makes. They call it the heat transmitter. So whatever heat your exhaust and transmission can put out will get soaked into that seat very, very quickly. And in fact, it can be glowing bright red by the end of the race. That is sarcasm, but truthfully, if I were buying a seat again, I probably wouldn't go aluminum. You can see the door panels are all cut out for the roll cage that's welded in. The hardtop you have to have. The cage goes through to the back, and that cage not just you know, helps with safety, of course, in the event of calamity. And if you know, Google Spec Miata crash, you'll see some horror stories. But it also helps make the car incredibly stiff. So it just acts as a massive chassis stiffener and becomes a fantastic, you know, way to make the car handle. See, I've got these big, ridiculous shoulder harness belts. I've got this window net like, you know, Richard Petty would use at Talladega. All right, god damn it, I'm gonna get in. Oh, the windows, they're just for storage, so they come right out. You can stuff them somewhere and then stick them back in, so the car's semi-waterproof. This is the door pull, and there you go. All right, let me get in this damn thing. Oh my god, okay. And that's without a race suit on. Okay, so here I am ensconced. Now, I'm cheap, so I don't have the big TrackMate system with the custom digital dashboard. I may get that soon, but I don't have it yet. But anyway, this thing is the data version of that. So what this will do is it will record my lap times, as pathetic as they are, and, you know, tell me how slow I'm going around the track. This is a shift light up here that I've got set to 7200 or a little beneath that, so that'll glow bright green. In fact, I tell you what, I'll show you everything, then we'll cycle through it. Here's my oil pressure gauge, which seems to work intermittently now. Water temp gauge. The neat thing about Mazda is they're so into racing. The factory is so into racing that the little air conditioning vents pop out, and these little 2 5/16 gauges pop right in. So it's just absolutely made for that, which is really cool as hell. Anyway, voltmeter over there. If that goes back down, I know I've lost a belt. It does have this removable steering wheel, which is nice. You just slide that on like so, give it a little pull, and in it is. So I like a nice small wheel for around the track. No particular reason. Everyone has different tastes, but this one works good for me. Nice big panoramic rear view, so I can see all the faster cars coming up in my rear end. Down here I've got 2 important switches. This one will run the fan. That'll turn the cooling fan on so I can get a head start. It comes on automatically at a certain temp, but when you're running Daytona, and you're, bump drafted a car around the big banks, you're right up on their ass end, pushing them around the track. At that point, you've lost all airflow going through your car. Being able to click the cooling fan becomes pretty important. The second one, this one, is even more important. That's the cool suit. When I click that thing on, that light will glow blue, and ice water that's in this cooler will start circulating through these tubes into a shirt that I'm wearing that's got all these surgical tubes in it. And it's kind of the Spec Miata version of air conditioning. And I don't know if you've ever been in Florida in July, but I can tell you're racing in a car with no insulation at all at 7,000 RPM all day, baking in the July sun. If you don't have that thing and you're in as bad a shape as I am, you're going to die. Okay, down here is the fuel pressure gauge. One of the ways you get around the restrictor plate is by using a fuel pressure regulator. I'll show you that in the trunk real quick. But essentially, I can set the fuel pressure in the car so it runs a little bit leaner, burns a little bit hotter, and gives me more horsepower, overcomes the problem of the restrictor plate. This is your air-fuel mixture that is, works in tandem with that. After you set the fuel pressure, you want to make sure you're getting a correct amount of air-fuel mixture so you don't blow the damn thing up. This is basically an idiot light. It's a pressure light on the cooling system. When it's got proper pressure, the light goes out, and if, God forbid I pop a hose or something, boom, that light comes on, and I know I got problems. This is a master kill switch, so that's something you have to have by Spec Miata rules, all SCCA rules. So, the car flips 9 times, it's still running, there's gas everywhere, safety worker can run in, click that thing, and the whole car shuts off all the way down to the alternator. Air conditioning, they're just sitting there, they're not doing a thing. I kept the little factory, I get made fun of for this, but I do like to smoke. I have an ashtray over here that I need if I need it. I've got a phone charger in there now. I was doing lap times with a phone app, but anyway, I have a lighter that's in there sometimes. I made that little console, works great. There's the rest of the TrackMate, the GPS thing. I've still got a fire extinguisher. I just bought a suppression system, but I haven't put it in yet. When that's in, it's going to have all these, tubes running everywhere that I'll just pull a thing that says fire, and it's going to shoot, stuff out everywhere. But okay, so there it is. And again, the most important device is the damn cool suit. We put these little hooks up to club your head when you lean inside of it. You can also hang your steering wheel from them, but their true purpose is to give you a concussion. And of course, you can see the way the hardtop is bolted in. Also got a couple little outlets over there for the cameras, so I can record just how slow I'm going around the track. I also kept the power mirrors intact because there's just nothing more annoying than hitting the being in the grid and your mirrors off. Also, a good friend of mine very kindly, and this was hard for him, he said it took him like 20-30 minutes to do. He had to do it in reverse. I don't know if you can see it, but on the roll bar where I can read it in the rearview mirror, it says something about cowboys' butts drive me nuts. So very happy and thankful to have people like that in my life. You can also see these little vent windows. I had installed the NACA ducts, and what that'll do is blow a bee into your helmet at about 110 miles an hour after he gets sucked in when you're going down the straightaway. So if you want high pressure bee inserts, that's the method to get them. I should fire it up for you. Here it run. So you got to clutch in on a VVT car. There you can see all the self-tests it goes through. And look at that, the oil pressure gauge is working today. Alright, so all very nice stuff. And I'm using what they call a Springfield dyno exhaust, which gives you a few more horsepower. Okay, so in the trunk, there's the fire suppression system, the little pull handle I haven't installed yet. But there's the fuel pressure regulator. And again, that thing's only purpose in life is to lean out the engine and give you just a little bit more power when you need it. So, all very neat stuff. So that is a very brief tour of a Spec Miata. And I can tell you that if any of you guys are into racing, and you don't want to spend a ton of money, but you want to have the absolute time of your life, then this is the way to do it. These wheels and tires, by the way, these are just rollers to get the car around. You have to run Hoosiers in this class. They're made by guys who, also make meth in Indiana, but they do make a pretty good tire. The competing class is, what the hell is it, NASA, not the space guys, but anyway, those guys are running Toyos, which frankly I like those tires a little better, but Hoosiers are fine. Oh yeah, this guy over here, that's the lets them know there's a master switch inside, and that tells them that the extinguisher is grabbable from here. So there is a little tour of the Spec Miata and, my fun little track hobby that keeps me sane when everything else is making me crazy. Now, what I'm going to do is stop the video, and I'm going to splice in just a lap of Sebring that we did. I don't know if the last race, the race before, whatever I got there. And you can see just how bad I am at driving. Maybe I'll do the one where I keep shifting into fifth instead of third. I do it twice in one lap. But it still managed to be kind of an exciting lap. So anyway, I appreciate it. Thank you for having a look. We'll see you with another car for sale soon. And enjoy this lap of Sebring. Take care, and we'll see you next time.